Know about you is one thing to be thankful, it's another to be thankful and to be faithful. We have to be thankful to God, and then we have to be faithful to God, who's given so many blessings. So this morning, as we listen to three of God's children, what God has done in their lives, I pray that as you leave this place, your life will be changed, your faith will be strengthened. Before you do that, I want to invite the guitars to come up. And I've got Ethiel. We're going to sing the song that we always sing, Thank You, Lord, for the blessings on me. Please don't cut my mic because I'm going to be carrying the melody because we don't have the mics for the praise team. How many of you know the song? Okay, you'll catch on. We'll try to. Those that know the song, please sing loud so they can. Come on, let's sing together. Upon me as I struggle alone. They say I have nothing, but they are so wrong. In my heart I'm rejoicing, how I wish they could say, thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. There's a roof up above me, I've a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Blessings on me. What are you, everybody singing now? Oh, I know I'm not wealthy, and these clothes they're not new. I don't have much money, but Lord, I have you, and that's all that matters. Though the world cannot see, thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Come on, everybody. There's a roof up above me, I've a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. There's a roof up above me, I've a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Thank you, Lord, for your blessing on me. Amen. Thankful to God. I invite Gigi and Edward also to join us. Marcus will remain here with us. The newly married. Have a seat here. The one with the bass voice is going to be next to me. Can you tell me how pleased you guys are? Well, once a year, we want to do twice a year actually. We want to give some time for some that I'm aware of, in the sense their stories to be, told, because it's what God has done in your life that really shows that God is real. So these three wonderful people are here with us this morning, and it's more like I'll be asking some questions. They'll be sharing the experience, and at some time during the program, I want to talk to Mama Rose, who they call Mama Rose. Is that okay if I call him Mama Rose? That's why Edward calls you. She will kind of come up, or we'll take the mic to her, and she'll have something to share with regards to Edward and Gigi. So I want to probably start with Marcus. When VJ was open, that was many years ago, right, Marcus?
Many.
15 years ago.
Yes.
Marcus was my student. I think I taught you until you finished senior, first grade year, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, junior year, I think.
Okay. So we have gone on mission trips, and we have gone on, class trips, and I know Marcus quite well. I know he wasn't as tall as he is now, but it's interesting to watch someone that you have kind of, grow, and then you see them now, they are an adult, having a full-time job, doing well. So Marcus, I want to ask you a question. The question is, how did going to an Adventist school, not to talk, but I taught at a public school, okay? How did going to an Adventist school give you an advantage, help you where you are today?
By the way, I don't know any question he's going to ask, so if I seem a little, he didn't want to disclose that to me, I guess. So your question, how did it going to an Adventist school affect me? Back then, I don't see it too much. I didn't see it too much as I was going to the school, but looking back on it, I think that it definitely created a foundation, just like it does with anything else. You do not go to the school and you magically, I keep saying the word magically, you mysteriously, let's use that one, you mysteriously become a blooming Seventh-day Adventist because you went to a Christian academy or a Christian university or Adventist university or anything like that. But what I do know that it does is that if you're truly committed to it, where you are and the opportunities that you're given through the school, it definitely sets a foundation for you to continue to excel, and it's just the starting point.
So to be where you are today, it didn't happen overnight. It took
No.
time.
You know that more than I do.
Yes, I do. Yes, so going to, I can't see, he's imitating me, so let me, okay, all right. How long have you been married, both of you, Edward and Gigi?
Since, I guess, sorry. Well, since June. So,
Since June,
yes,
okay.
since June.
How are things going?
Well, very well.
Put the mic up.
Oh,
You can tell he's not used.
no, very well. Very
Okay.
well. It's a new experience. So, yeah, I would say very well.
So you've been married since June, but how long have you been, how long since you got baptized?
Since I got baptized, I think that was...
Yo, lapel mic for Edward. He's, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Let's go ahead, it's okay.
Okay. I think it was the last year when I got
Last year, okay.
baptized. I'm not sure it was at the end of October or in December. When did you have that?
That was in November, that's when.
November, yes, November, yes.
So he was baptized a year ago. You probably want to, I always wondered, now I know the answer. How did you, I want to give Mama Rose a chance to share as well. So how did you get acquainted with this family?
Well, actually, I used to work at Firestone here at
Okay.
Weslaco, and what happened is Mama Rose had an issue with her car, and she said that she spent the afternoon driving around, didn't know what to do. And she just prayed to God and like, you know what, God, lead me somewhere where I can find some help. I happened to be working the I was actually working the early shift. I was there from 6 in the morning until 7 in the afternoon. I shouldn't have been there. But I remember I was there late, and she showed up, and she like, dude, I need help with the car. And I was like, I'm sorry, I mean, unless you can bring it here, I can't help you. But I felt that need to help her out. And I felt like something was telling me, like, you know what, she needs help. And I told her, if you really, really do need the help, be here by 7:30 when I clock out, and I can come and help you out. And I asked her how far she lived. She lived still a few blocks away from where I worked. So sure enough, 7:30 came around. I had even packed up a bag of tools, and I figured, like, if she shows up, she shows up. If not, you know. But she showed up right at 7:30. So I followed her home. I helped her out. All she needed to do is replace a battery, and helped her out, put new terminals and whatnot, and got her car up and running. And that was that at that point.
So Rose, what happened after that? Now, you had no intention of asking him so you can connect him with Gigi, right? I know you don't have mics. Can somebody take her mic? Briefly tell us, because it's a very interesting story how God led Edward to, to him, and then, of course, the marriage took place.
Well, at that time, he came home and helped me. I remember it was a Friday evening, and I was very busy cooking and preparing for the Sabbath. And then I remember I had an appointment with her. It's like someone told me, remember to go and meet that guy because you're going to need the car to go to work. So I went, and he came home, and he helped me. He put all himself in helping me, a stranger, somebody he doesn't know. And we needed to get some parts for the battery. He went with me and helped me. And he came home. It was like past 9 o'clock when he finished fixing everything in the car. And I offered him to eat with us since it's late, and I kept him for so long to help me. He did not ask me for anything, but I offered to eat, and he stayed and ate with us. And since I am the kind of person, everybody I meet, I want to find a way to tell them about Jesus. I have to find a way to to throw that in there. And I started, talking with him. And then, since then, we developed a relationship. From time to time, I would, talk to him, and we started seeing each other very often. And I offered him to study the Bible with him.
So Gigi, how did you come into the scene?
Well, what my mother's not mentioning is that she would have Edward come over to the house almost every day to have lunch. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna reach that part, but I don't know how long I have.
Did he have a reason behind it, or just?
No, she.
Well, I think it's easier to preach the message through health. We have a health message that is very powerful. And through the health message, I started, telling him, because I know they might not want to hear about Jesus, but if they know something is good for their life, that will help. So I invited him to eat at home, and since during our relationship, I realized that he's a young man, he doesn't cook, And it was me and my other daughter who was there. Gigi was at Tennessee at that time. Gigi was not even at home. So I said, you know what? I cook all the time. If you, instead of buying fast food that's not gonna help you, come over to my house. I don't live far away. I don't want my food to go to waste anyway. Just come and have lunch at the house. You don't have to be buying food out there that will not help you.
All right, Gigi, so tell me how.
So now, when I did come back home from Tennessee, that's when I met Edward. And at that time, my mom had already established that relationship, so he was friends with my mother. And during that time, I was struggling with just some bad news that took place in my life, so I was very depressed. I was not in the mood to be around people. I was always sad. I was always in my room and just not really up to having visitors or anything. And then my mother, she would go to work. She worked 12-hour shifts, so she would tell me, okay, Gigi, I have this guy that's coming over. Please be nice to him, and please feed him because I'm trying to witness to him. And I was like, okay, Mom, okay. And so that's how it started. I started taking over with, giving him lunch. And then slowly, because what would happen is at first I would just give him the food and I'd kind of go away and have him eat on his own. And he actually is the one that kind of...
Oh, you made the move.
He started... No, he was just trying to be a friend. Because we started off as friends. He saw that, he can tell you actually what he noticed and why he started to start talking.
You want to tell us, Edward, briefly, and then we'll get to the most important part.
Why you started talking to me?
Well, actually, it did have to do a lot with Mama Rose. I mean, she would always talk about Gigi, the type of person she is. And for me personally, just from hearing that, I always think to myself, like, that's someone I want to get to know. Someone to be a good friend. And I don't know, I could always sense that there was something more to her. There was something that she was going through something. I just personally wanted to talk to her. Wanted to, just to get to know her.
So we'll get back to Gigi and Edward, but Marcus...
You can stay with them. I'm enjoying this too.
I know you shared something with the young adults and the people that come for the way. I don't think others have heard your testimony where you worked for Andrew Yu, right?
That's correct.
And then you work for the city.
The state.
Hidalgo.
The state.
The state. Okay,
where the city is located,
Not the city, the state. He's higher up there. But something that happened there, the way God led you there, it's quite remarkable. You want to briefly share with the church?
Briefly? Okay. So as he mentioned, I was working with Andrew Yu. He was my first, which if you don't know, he's in Edinburgh. He's Adventist as well. He has his own business. When I was working there, pretty much I offered to pretty much like a resume. I said, please take me in. I just graduated, and every interview that I go to, it's the same old story. Where's your experience? Where's your experience? And it's like, well, I never worked and went to school. So it was just work. I mean, it was just school. So when I come out, they're looking for experience, which I had none, right? So I went with him initially for the experience. After about 2 years, I was like, you know what? I need to see if I even want to stay in this line of profession, to be quite honest. That I haven't shared. But I was thinking to myself, do I even want to stay in this line? And I had gone to many interviews, and I was always feeling good after every interview. I was like, oh yeah, this one feels real good. We did good. And next thing you know, they wouldn't call me. Or there were some interviews where I would walk in and be like, yeah, well, can't really work on the Sabbath. And I'm gonna need the Sabbath off, because I made it a point to always mention that, never hide it away from them or never try to work around or anything like that. So they said, oh, really? That's our busiest day. Next. And so I was really like, man, I don't know. I mean, maybe I should just get into something else. Well, then I went to this one interview, which Pastor M was alluding to, but I'll mention it. It's the adult probation offices of Hidalgo, Texas, or Hidalgo, Edinburgh. but we're housed in Edinburgh, but it's really a state job. And I went to that interview, and I felt horrible, like really, really bad. I'm talking like it was horrible. I was gonna say another word, it sucked, but it was horrible. And I went out of the building and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I finished the interview. How did it go, Marcus? I don't even want to talk about it, Mom. I said, let's like forget this even happened and let's move on to the next interview or whatever. Let's see what I can look for. And she's like, that bad? And I was like, yeah, like I didn't feel good about the people, the questions they asked me, everything. I said, this is the worst interview I ever felt bad about. And then next thing you know, a week later, they're calling me and they're saying, hey, when can you come in for fingerprinting and stuff like that? And then like, that's like the telltale sign that like pretty much they're gonna hire you. And I was shocked. And I guess one other part that I'll mention, if I do have a little bit of time, is that now that I've been working there for 2 going on 3 months now, I've noticed that when it comes to giving a position within the county, within the state, it's very, okay, so, oh, Pastor M has a daughter. Did you know that? Pastor M has a
I'd
daughter.
like to have one.
Yeah, and so the daughter was, Pastor M is already working in the county, and he says, you know what, my daughter's applying for this position. And he's like, okay, well, who's this girl? And he says, well, that's my daughter. Oh, okay, well, Pastor M has been working with us, the county, or the state, for about 10 years already, so like, the application, and I kid you not, it goes from the bottom of the pile to the top of the pile. In other words, they're gonna look at you first. And they may not give you the job, but that's what they're gonna do because you know somebody there. For me, I had no family, no friends, no relatives at all of who I knew that was already been working in. The people who were in orientation said, oh yeah, my mom's been working here for about 15 years now. And for me, I didn't know anybody. And so I credit that to knowing the person that I need to know the most, which is God. He definitely put me in there, even if I didn't have somebody to vouch for me or say, oh, you should hire him. But it's a lot of internal stuff, so I praise God for that.
So what I like about Marcus and others as well, sometimes we fiddle our thumbs, wait for something for God to do. God says, there may be a small position, but if you're faithful in little things, God will make you faithful in greater things. So we can't wait for something to fall on our lap, but take what you have before you and be faithful, work hard, and God will give you greater opportunities. Like, Marcus, I know sometimes they say you work 1 hour extra after work, that way you don't have to come to church. You don't have to come work on the Sabbath, right?
Right, so from last week till about the end of December, hopefully, they were saying, okay, well, there's a project that we need to get done, so we're gonna need you to come on Saturdays. And I just told him, I said, I can't come on Saturday. I said, if you want me to come on Saturday, it's gonna be in the evening. I said, and if you need me to come at all on the weekend, I can come on Sunday anytime that you want. I said, but Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, I can't. So then they look at me and they're like, all right, so when can you do it? And so like it became like they're saying, okay, on Friday, if you can stay behind an extra 30 minutes, an hour at the most, then you won't have to come in on Saturday. So that's that.
Being faithful to God.
Yeah.
So Edward and Gigi, Edward actually has an incredible story to tell about Sabbath. Before that, Edward and Gigi want to sing a song, and then we'll get back to both of you.
this is a song that I'm pretty sure most of you probably already know. And in this song, we'll be singing it in English, Spanish, and French. This song, really, for us, we feel that it has a lot of attachment to our lives because God moved in both of our lives in His timing. So we hope that you're blessed by it.
I have one more question to ask, which is the only reason why I brought Edward and Gigi here, because there's something that happened that really, how shall I say it, made me think about my faith. You know, in His own time, God brought these wonderful couple together. And I'm sure Mama Rose, you're very proud of Gigi and Edward. You know, God does things in an incredible way. And I did see you fixing a car one day. I wanted to stop and, talk to you. Remember the time you were there. I didn't know you had come for lunch But anyway, last year you had been studying with, Mama Rose, the Bible. But one night you came when I talked about the Sabbath. And you were so, God impressed you so much, you were convicted that was the right day to worship. So what do you do the next day?
Well, there you go.
Okay, never mind.
Well, actually, you had come to you had that, what was it called? You had a
When-
service where
yes,
pretty
mhm.
much you were talking about
Yes.
about everything, and I remember that day it was about Sabbath, and actually we had gone over it multiple times with Mama Rose, and I had come to believe in the Sabbath and honoring the Sabbath, and I work in a field where you pretty much have to work the weekends. Weekends are our busiest days in the automotive industry. You have to work what is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I would tell myself that, yeah, I believe in the Sabbath, but I was here working every weekend. And that service that you had and that sermon really convicted me. And literally, I was in the parking lot. We were gonna drive home, and I was there with Gigi, and I told her, I was like, I have to quit my job, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid what will come of it, because as of tomorrow, when I come in to, talk to my boss, I was afraid I won't have a job anymore. And to be honest, that was the easiest thing to do, just pretty much quit your job, but the aftermath was pretty difficult. But yeah, I called my boss, and I told him that I can't, I can't go to work on Saturdays. I believe in keeping the Sabbath. And at the moment, he had honored it. He had told me that, we can work something out. I can make you work on Sundays. You'll be my Sunday technician, and we could make you work only Sundays. And at the moment, that was fine. But that Saturday, I stayed home, knowing that, he had told me that, but he called me and told me, where are you at? I need you to come into work. So in a way, he kind of went back on his word. And at that moment, I had told him to hold up, and I called Gigi, and I told her, like, you know what, I'm going to have to quit my job after all. And I called him back, and I told him, I can't do that. I believe in keeping the Sabbath, and I'm going to have to quit my job.
What do you do the next day? You did something, right? You went to Firestone, didn't you?
Yeah, and I pretty much talked to him, and I turned in on my uniform and gave him my letter of resignation. I think I gave it to him a week after, but yeah.
So did you have a job in mind at all?
No, not at all.
So why is it that you thought Sabbath was a big deal where you had to give up the job that you had?
Well, it's just I grew up in I did grow up in church myself, but I was how can I put it? I was in the Christian Missionary Alliance, and they go to Sundays, and they never really preach too much about it or even mention it. And when I was doing the Bible study, a lot of the times she kept bringing up Sabbath, and I was learning about it. I was like, well, actually in the Bible, there's nothing that really talks about, changing it or whatnot. And God really, really talks a lot about keeping the Sabbath and honoring the Sabbath and really emphasizes on it. And I started feeling that conviction to keep the Sabbath.
So Edward went ahead and made a decision to get baptized. He got baptized. So how long did it take for you to find a job after? It was not easy, right?
About 4 or 5 months.
What did your parents say? Because they're not Adventists.
Oh, it was difficult. I think that was probably the most difficult thing for me. I mean,
You lived with them.
Yeah, I lived with my parents at the time. So I had to talk to my dad and tell him, and actually have not an argument, but I had a discussion because he doesn't see, doesn't see eye to eye in keeping the Sabbath and whatnot. He tried to dismiss it, and I just told him that's what I believe in, and
Since then, how do you see God guiding from the time you got baptized, you gave up your job, and then God did open the door for you?
Yes, for me, I dedicated a lot of my life in becoming a technician. That's what I know well. That's what I know how to do. And I prayed to God that I know you can get me a job in this field. I would hate for this to go to waste. I know this is something I've done since I was a child. So, and God opened the doors. He found I was able to find a job in McAllen at a private shop that only worked Monday through Fridays from 8 to 5. And God blessed me in the best way possible by keeping my faith in that. I knew God was going to bless me with the job where I can keep the Sabbath.
So, Gigi, how did you both, in your early stages of marriage, how do you deal with this whole? I know you were looking for a job, and finally God did open the door for you. But how has God strengthened your marriage through this incredible experience?
Well, one thing that I have learned, like the song says, in His time, everything happens according to His time. We can say that we want something or don't want something, and God knows exactly what works for us, what would be best for us, and at what time it should come into our lives. Just being with Edward, for one, people who have known me in the past, they knew that I was the girl that always said she'd never get married. So I have people from my previous church. My family used to go to Lyford, and everybody in my church is like, "What? You're married?" That's a surprise to them. And even for me, it was a surprise for me. But I think God brought Edward into my life at the time that He did because He knew that's when I would accept it. He knew that's when I would be able to receive him in the best manner instead of pushing him away. And then with how God has moved in Edward's life and showing how He can bless us even when it seems like He's not answering our prayer, because waiting for 4 to 5 months for a job when you have bills to pay, He has a car to pay, all these things, it is scary. And it does make you wonder, like, is God listening? And for me personally, for the longest time, I was praying for a job, and I would keep getting rejected. And it was very difficult. And the biggest thing for me was not speaking Spanish. And I was telling him, I was like, I guess I'm going to have to move out of the valley, because what I'm trying to find a job in, they're not taking me because I don't speak Spanish. I was like, I am bilingual, but... So it's hard. It was getting tougher and tougher. But then I saw how God opened doors for us from being able to have our wedding, though small, it was beautiful for us. Having the wedding, being able to later find an apartment which came out of the blue, and we were looking for a long time. And him to be able to actually get another job after the one in McAllen, and something that pays a lot more, that can cover so many expenses. And then finally for me to find a job working in Montessori school. It really has shown us how God can open doors for us and move for us. So then when we have moments when we feel like we're stuck, or not all the bills are going to get covered, or we don't have food, or anything, we could just wait for God to move. And just this week, He moved for us financially. We're just surprised. It's not so much to say that you're surprised at what God can do, but at how He moves for you, even when you don't ask. So yeah, it has built up our faith, and it's built up our trust, and it's helped us to be of support to one another, so that when one of us is down and feeling like things are just not going well, the other can say, remember when God did this for us? Remember how God opened doors for us this way? Just keep holding on.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to counsel both of you before you got married and also have the wedding, but I see how God has helped you financially and spiritually in other ways. It's amazing. I know for some of us, this may not be so important, but I think it's important we listen to other people's stories and grow in faith and say, God is incredible. I'm sure you probably have faced the same Sabbath issues, but you remain faithful to God. God will always reward you. It may not come tomorrow or day after, but it will come. But God has called us to be faithful and not successful. So when we are faithful to God, we will automatically become successful, because God is the one who's given us true success. So it's my prayer that we take these stories that you heard today and kind of apply it to your personal life. For me, Sabbath is a big deal. It is the biggest deal in my life. I believe that the reason God gave us the Sabbath is because God knew we'll work ourselves to death, Sunday to Friday or Monday to Friday. I know there are people that here work very, very hard. If you didn't have the Sabbath, you probably won't be alive. You'd probably be in a hospital or someplace. So that Sabbath God gave us is a date that we must have with God. If you engage yourself in anything else you engage yourself in Sunday through Friday, you're actually dishonoring God. You're taking away the blessings God can give you. So one thing I would ask you to ask God is to, God, teach me how to keep the Sabbath. If people would learn how to keep the Sabbath, I'll tell you what, we will be spiritual giants. We will be. So God, because He loves us, He gave us the Sabbath. And you heard these three young people telling you, Edward, Marcus, how they told up front, I can't work on Sabbath. In fact, Edward, you went and turned in your uniforms and everything and said, I'm done. And that was, to me, that was very, very, I have never done that. I've told Idea one time, I said, I will not work on Sabbath, you know. But to go literally and say, I don't have a plan, but I'm leaving it in your hands. So as we've heard this, I hope and pray that you will bless today. And in closing, we want to sing the same song one more time. So we want to invite all the guitarists up here. And if you can come and help us out. In its time, so you should remember the tune by now. So we'll sing the song just like we did at the beginning. Thank you, Edward, Gigi, and Marcus, for sharing your experience. Shall we stand as we sing? Let's all sing together. As the world looks upon me as I struggle alone, they say I have nothing, but they are so wrong. In my heart I'm rejoicing, how I wish they could say, thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. There's a roof up above me, a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Now I know I'm not wealthy, and this clothing not new. I don't have much money, but Lord, I have you, and that's all that matters. Though the world may not see, thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Everybody, come on. There's a roof up above me, a good place to see. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank more time. There's a roof up above me and a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Father, we can't thank you enough for showing your generosity towards each one of us. Father, you've given us a family. You've given us safety. You've given us so many things. Above all, you've given us Jesus, who made it possible for us to live in heaven. And today, Father, as we stand before you, we want to commit our lives to you. Help us to be thankful, also be faithful to you, because you blessed us so much. We thank you, Father, for the testimonies today. How wonderful you've been to Gigi, Edward, and Marcus and Rose and the families. And Father, help us remember it is not so much what we know from the Bible. It is who we know and how we show the world that we know Jesus. So, Father, help us to shine for you, not with the knowledge, but with sincerity, by our words and our action, the way we live our lives. In the end, Father, when you come again, you reward us according to how we have lived, and help us to live the way you want us to live. And thank you for today, and thank you for all the blessing. Help us, Father, to continue to keep the Sabbath holy, and bless our fellowship today in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated. Before I forget, last Sabbath I told you